And as they say, life has been a roller coaster ride. You just need to ensure that you finish the ride. So I stayed on that roller coaster ride, sometimes going up, sometimes going down, sometimes being almost thrown out of the ride, me become who I am today. It's been a life filled with challenges, but I would say it's rewarding.
Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. And here I am again with another episode. And my name is Flight Lt Sonali of Men's Talk Town. So, what we do on this channel is we interact with men and we try to understand their perspective about women to create a safe space for women and how the dialogue between a man and women can be more transparent, more easier to, in order to gain that respect for each other, and how we can create a better community for our existence. So that's the idea. And again, I have another eminent personality with me. Welcome, Dr. Brillian.
Hi, Sonali. Thank you for having me.
How have you been?
All good, Sonali. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, thank you, and it's a pleasure to have you on board. And
Likewise.
I'm quickly going to introduce about Dr. Brilliant, and he has a lot of achievements and a lot of, I would say, feathers in his cap. So, Dr. Brilliant SK, he is a leadership evangelist, an experience collector, and a storyteller. A transformational HR leader with 27 plus years of cross functional expertise. His unique journey from engineering to HR leadership gives him distinctive edge in building future-ready workplaces. Brilliant is a passionate storyteller and an educator. He was recognized by Marketing in Asia as a stellar CXO and digital visionary in 2023. Brilliant. He's received a global CXO Excellence Award in 2024. He's a speaker, mentor, and a leadership coach and has worked with students, TEDx speakers, and CXOs. He's an academic advisor to a couple of business schools and academic programmer advisor with SNDT PV Polytechnic for Women, Mumbai. Brilliant is the founder director of District 98 and was recognized for his voluntary services when Toastmasters International ranked him amongst the world's top 10 best leaders for the year 2015-2016. That's wonderful. He has 500 plus virtual, that is, or online, you can say, engagements to his credit since April 2020. He has delivered keynotes, workshops, learning sessions for various forums, including NHRDN, ISTD, WWF, Toastmasters, HR forums, college and universities. Wonderful. He's an
Thank
experienced collector and uses his observational skills to bring humor and fun in working and helping teams achieve stretch outcomes. That's so wonderful, and it's
thank you.
it's really great to have you on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's my honor and pleasure to be a part of this podcast. Thank you, Sonali, for
Likewise,
having me over.
right? Likewise. So, could you just in a few minutes, tell us about your journey before we actually dive down into the topic?
Thanks, Sonali. In fact, I was just thinking what is it that I can share, but I would like to say that being an Amitabh Bachchan and a movie fan, my journey of life can be summarized in a movie title, Mukaddar Ka Sikandar. Uh,
Okay.
Thanks to my father for giving me a name that gets me a foot in the door and a conversation starter every single time. My professional journey has been filled with not just setbacks but learning and growth. When I was young and a child, I wanted to be a medical doctor. Could not
Okay.
afford it coming from a middle class Indian family. So I did what most Indians did when they could not become a doctor. I took up engineering,
Okay.
struggled a lot to get the first job after engineering. I still remember roaming around in SEEBS, which is known for technology companies being here, with CV in my hand, knocking almost every company's door. No luck. It reminds me of good old movies where you would see that no vacancy board everywhere. But I would say, thanks to my association with Rotract, a youth organization of the Rotary International, the owner of a computer institute offered me a job in teaching as a technical faculty. And as it is said, when there is nothing else and you see some light, you just want to make sure that you go there and see what's up there. Those days I was earning less than what the security guards would earn, but then I said life needs to go on, and I decided to take up post graduation in computers for the possibility of a better opportunity that would emerge. And as they say, life has been a roller coaster ride. You just need to ensure that you finish the ride. So I stayed on that roller coaster ride, sometimes going up, sometimes going down, sometimes being almost thrown out of the ride. But as luck would have it, I got a break into a software development and a solutions company where I got the opportunity to work in software development, database management. Slowly, thanks to my super boss, I moved on to becoming a solutions architect. And during that time, my boss, or super boss rather, found me suitable to be a part of the pre sales team. So that's how I got to work on some amazing projects. And that's when probably I would say the pivot happened, because most of the projects that I was working on was related to human resources. This made me fascinated and inclined towards understanding the domain better rather than talk about things that I don't know. I took up masters in HRD formally as a 3-year part-time course, and finally got my big break with HR in an IT company. And since then, I've not looked back. It's been a journey where I've got experience in business partnering, I got to work in learning and development, recruitment, talent management, strategic solutioning. You talk about elements, I've been able to work on it, but I would still say there were challenges. And unfortunately, as we all know, it's all about finding a grip. I would like to thank everyone who's been a part of this journey to give me that first break in HR, or that first job when I wanted to get something out of it. So there are people who've helped me become who I am today. It's been a life filled with challenges, but I would say it's rewarding, because it's the relationship that I've made thanks to all the connects and networks that I have that has helped me reach where I am today. And I'm sure there's more to travel in this journey than what we talk today. Thanks, Sonali, for asking me that.
It's very fascinating, inspiring journey, I must say, because moving from one field to the other and then finding your own way through that is not easy. So that's very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so now moving on to our topic of men's talk town. The first question would be like, who are the women in your life, and how do you actually encourage them?
Thank you. Thank you so much. That pause made me wonder, should I answer that question? But
No, I was just thinking whether I should ask it now or whether I should
no,
just give you some time. So
no,
meanwhile, I just asked it. That's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
perfect, perfect. Just kidding. I'll start with my personal journey, and I think the most important person in my life has been my mother all through. She's always the one who stood by me despite what happened, and always used to say, "Don't worry, things will become better." Even during my worst days I faced, she was always there. She would there every single time I was down and probably, sulking. She would come back and say, irrespective of what's happening, never go to sleep hungry. I still remember that, because she said, focus and ensure that you're healthy so you can fight battles later. And that's the first experience. And being, obviously closer to my mother, she's the one woman that I would always look up to. We have our fights, but still, she's the one person because of whom I am where I am today. And second, I would say, would be my aunt. Not a blood relation, but someone who's very similar to my mother. She would always be there, no matter what. And I still remember when we were kids, my younger brother, me, and my cousin, we would fight to sleep on her lap as kids. And she managed to ensure that we all got equal opportunities. And I think on a personal front, I owe them a lot. I don't think, you know, as kids or as children, we often thank them as much as we should, or give gratitude. But I think they've been a great part of making me who I am. And then when I look at my professional life, I would like to call out a few names, because it starts with Susan, who gave me the first role as a person in HR, she definitely saw something in me and gave me that break. So I think full credit for her for giving me that first break. And I had the good fortune of working with people like Sandra, who was my boss. She empowered me. And I know there are many instances where people come back and say, "Oh, you have a lady boss. I'm sure it would be difficult." But I think she broke all the stereotypes, and she made me realize that it's not about what you say, but what you do that matters. We may keep saying a lot of things, but what we do is the one thing that creates that impact. And now, as of now, in the current organization that I work for professionally, I would say my direct reportee Brinda is one of my sounding boards. I keep going back to her, bouncing off some thoughts, ideas. It's a mix of all. And in this professional journey, while I've had opportunity to work with some amazing professionals, I think each one have contributed to this growth in some form or the other. And last but not the least, my better half, Vaishali, who was a colleague with me in one of the organization that we worked for and went on to be a part of my life. She has stood through all the ups and downs, experienced all my tantrums, all the goods, the bads, the uglies. And yes, she's played a great role in ensuring balancing the personal and professional journeys. Both of us being in HR, we also get opportunities to talk about certain things, certain challenges without getting into details. And I think those are the people that I would say have helped me realize, not just as women but more as human beings, the need to be there when you need the most. And I think women play that role very well all through, in my experience.
Right. So I think that's a great share, and maybe when they people say like God created mother because he couldn't be everywhere, so that stands true
True.
for all of us. I would say most of us, or maybe all of us. So when you mentioned one thing that your first boss, Miss Suzanne, was there, and she took you into the that role, and she was your immediate reporting officer or whoever.
Right.
So you mentioned about a stereotype. So what kind of stereotype would you think were attached with a women boss, and how did it work? Or like you said, it was nothing like that. So what do you mean when you say that? Could you
So
elaborate on that?
absolutely, Sonali. And it's cliched, but given the way we have structured as a culture, it's always male dominated. Unfortunately, men are supposed to be the boss in the house. But I come from Kerala, where we have a matriarchal system, so I've seen both aspects. So in a corporate environment, many a times what happens is, when someone say that you have a female boss, oh, they start thinking, oh, so she is so dominating, she would not give you scope to breathe, she will be unrealistic, she will ask you so many things to do because she feels that she is in control. So some of these stereotypes have actually created an unwanted culture where people get biased, and even before they start working with them, they have misconceptions or myths about how working with women would be. So I think it worked as a boon for me when I had Susan as my first boss. She was someone who ensured that I got my space. At the same time, she was there to help, guide, mentor when required. And it created an ecosystem where I believe that it's not about the gender of a person, but more about the intent and the way in which the person translate every intent into action. I may have the best of intent, but if I'm not able to translate that into action, I don't think anything can work positively. So, Susan was the first person who first trusted me, saw something in me, and said, let's give him an opportunity. And she was there to help me, guide me. So, the stereotypes got broken. She was not the one who was dominating. Yes, she was demanding. She would ask for outcomes. She would want to see positive outcomes rather than anything else. She would stand by me when things were not going well. There were instances where, sometimes, and I'm sure as HR professionals we all face it, when business comes with some unrealistic expectations and you get angry about, how can you say about HR something like this, right? So at that point of time, Susan was the one who would just make sure that I'm calming down, giving me a sense and perspective, saying, it's okay, relax, you don't need to react, wait, get accustomed to these things and respond in an appropriate manner. So I think all of these have helped me, and I don't have any qualms about working with women as bosses. And in some extent, I would also go ahead and say that probably they could end up being some of the best bosses that you've worked for. So if I were to look at some of the amazing bosses that I look at, uh, we have Susan, Sandra in the top five. So that speaks a lot.
That's really wonderful because I think first of all, be it male or female, first thing first is the first boss makes a lot of impression, and you
Yes.
tend to copy them the way as you grow into your journey of
Yes.
profession and that way. And as you mentioned that people have this stereotype of women. She must be bossy, she must be very strict, she must be having unrealistic expectations. So, isn't it on the both sides that at times if there are women bosses, at times either they are judged on extremes. Either she would be very strict, or being a
Very
woman,
so.
she might be very soft and she may not be able to take decisions, or she may be okay lenient. Okay, fine, let's do this, let's do that. So, is it so? And second thing is, as a male employee, what do you think? What are the aspects one needs to keep in mind if they have a female boss?
Yeah, very interesting question. It's cliched, but yes, we often tend to categorize women into two boxes. One is saying that they are too demanding or they are too soft. But I
Yeah,
think,
and sorry, I'll just interrupt you also here. It's not like women. Times men are also like that. Some
absolutely,
men are, but when it comes to women boss, it's like, oh, okay. So
it
then the
has to be this.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, yeah, please
So,
continue.
to add to what you said, I would say somewhere when you see women in leadership position who are demanding, who want outcomes, and who are consistently pushing, they are seen as those demanding kind of leaders or women. And then there are people who are soft. I would soft in the sense they say, okay, let's give them time. From that emotional perspective.
Yes,
So that's where the categorization and stereotyping comes in, and I have experienced both, and let me tell you, I have
okay.
seen both come up with extreme kind of outcomes. Susan and Sandra are great examples. Susan was highly demanding, Sandra was more relaxed, and she would give me flexibility and say, okay, explore and come back. Susan would say, this is how we should do it. Both have own
Hmm.
pros and I think the aspects which men should look at is instead of categorizing and stereotyping some of them, saying that they are highly emotional. I don't think it is true for everyone. Yes, there are women who are emotional, and at the same time, I worked in an organization where women have actually worked till the last minute of their delivery. Unless it was important for them to rush to a hospital, they were working. They have gone from an event to the hospital directly for delivery. And then there are women who have said that I need 4 weeks, subject to doctors ask. So you cannot categorize and say,
You cannot
you know
categorize this.
you cannot. And I think for me, what makes a difference, which I said earlier, is what is the movement from intent to action. By being uh, directive, you can still achieve outcomes. By being soft, you can still achieve outcomes. If you're able to get outcomes, so I think you should accept them. So it's not about emotions, but it's about how effectively they manage the people around.
Right.
The other stereotype comes in from the nature of what has been created for women, is they are by nature caring and they want to share a lot. But then there are women leaders, women young leaders, I would say emerging leaders, who are so headstrong and driven by numbers that emotions don't come close to them. Are they different? I would say no, they are very focused. And I think that's what we need to understand, and we need to assess them based on outcomes rather than what appears to us. Appearance are often deceptive. You may find that the soft spoken person is the most aggressive, and the one who's driving the most is very soft. So my learnings from this and my suggestion and recommendations for all
Men.
male professionals or even women would be that
Okay.
stereotypes are not the truth. They are challenged, and when, yeah, they are supported by the right set of people, they definitely turn the tables around. It is important to make sure that we don't categorize women into brackets and stereotype them. Make sure that we give them opportunity to represent their true selves, and that's when change happens, irrespective of whether it is men or women. I think there is a need for co-working and co-creating, as you had mentioned earlier. We need to let go of the biases. We need to look at it from a pure competency, knowledge and skill perspective. If we are able to do that, give them a chance, bet on them, and I am sure we all would be surprised at the outcomes that they throw. And sometimes you will wonder what would have happened if I had not given them the opportunity. So I'd say just take a bet on them and trust your guts, trust your instinct. And I can tell you from experience, nothing can go wrong if you have the right intent and the move to action.
I think you've shared very beautiful insights and points that intent definitely matters, and the team has to stand by whether it's a male or a female. They should look at it because I think mistakes can be made by anybody.
Anybody.
You can't say that okay, now that she's the boss, and immediately one or two mistakes are highlighted.
Yeah.
So that can't happen, as you
It can.
very rightly said. So just one quick incident I'll share, that like yesterday while I was riding my scooty, there was one more scooty ahead of me,
Huh.
and the indicator was blinking to the left, and there was a left and right turn and a
Right.
straight turn. So I was hoping, okay, I didn't want to overtake because there were other vehicles. So I waited that, okay, maybe this, whatever
Person.
person is there, it will go left and then I can go my way. I wanted to go straight. The indicator was left and it went straight. So my daughter, she's 13, she immediately says, and then they say that this is done by a female,
Boom.
whereas the rider was a male.
Yeah.
So we often see these jokes
True. True.
on reels. It's not, I don't think it's really funny, but okay, on a lighter note it's fine to take it in a way, but constantly this becomes a stereotype. Okay, giving a left indicator
Absolutely.
and turning right must be a female rider, driving slow must be a female in the car. So
True. True.
it made me laugh so hard when she said this, because this was a guy who was riding a scooty and behind him a female was sitting.
True, true.
So
Sonali, when you said this, it applies to even the HR as profession, right? We've been the most, uh, I would say, top ranked profession, which is a part of jokes. HR equals to Rangoli. So I think it applies. You cannot just use one brush to paint, be it
yes,
women or HR professionals. I think there's a
yes.
lot more to it. Yes, but good thing, as you rightly said, is it's good for a quick laugh, but it cannot be a basis for
Yes,
deciding anything.
I mean, okay, fine, as a fun thing, or at times just on a lighter note, it's fine. But always, then
You can't.
it becomes
Yeah,
that
it's a bias and
tagline
a stereotype.
yes, it's absolutely being biased. So that's what it happens. All right. So moving ahead, one more quick point is that when you as a HR person, and now that you work with directors and at senior positions, if you go with a certain plan or certain strategy, so have you observed any particular difference between when you approach a female leader and a male leader? I know I'm maybe I'm sounding a bit odd or biased while this. What I am trying to understand is the thought process or the
Right.
approach. Uh, and I'll also tell you why I asked this after you answer me.
So, Sonali, there is no one straight answer to it. I have experienced the both parts of how women have reacted to certain aspects. I have had instances where we offered a challenging opportunity for women, and they were not willing to take it up. And then there were instances where women have said, "Okay, challenge me, put me into aspects where I've never been." So I think it's more than just classifying it as a behavior for women. It's coming from the culture and the upbringing as well. What is it that the background that you grew up in? There
Yes.
are women leaders that I've seen who go all out. While they have empathy, they are so assertive. They are one of the best. They know when to set boundaries, when to say no. They know effectively to negotiate. And then there are women that I have seen who would prefer to be risk averse. They say, I get a monthly salary regularly, this is fine, I just need to ensure that I reach home on time. So I think it's been a mix of both for me, and I can't put a percentage to it because the number of people that I'm talking of is minuscule. But at the same time, it's not a trend to put a straight jacket approach to say women always follow this. I've seen both parts of how women have behaved. But the best thing about it is whatever decisions they have taken, they have made sure that they stick to their decisions, they follow through. If they say that I'll not be able to do it, they deliver the best in that capability. And when it comes to having conversations on strategy level, discussion about thought process, I have been amazed at the way they come back persuasively saying that, Brilliant, probably this is an aspect which we are not looking at. Why don't we look at, let's say, XYZ? And that's something which is an eye opener, because I have been always looking at it from probably a male perspective. I've not looked at it from a woman's perspective. So I cannot really put a pin and say this is how women always behave, but it's spread all across.
So, okay, so when I asked this, what was going on in my mind was when we talk about leaders or when we talk about, being in that capacity. Now, when we say, okay, fine, a female with a PhD and a male with a PhD and, same experience, same background, and now you give them, same kind of problem. So, of course, they go, or both are going to, have their own approach towards it, and both are equally capable. So my point is, as you correctly mentioned, that the upbringing matters a lot.
Yes,
Failures can happen with men also. And
absolutely.
secondly, when we talk about this, I think what you highlighted, I really like that point is, if in a team we have both, male and female working together, that is going to bring a lot of perspective rather than
Yes,
we judging them as,
true.
just seeing it as gender thing. Because
Right.
yes, some things do come naturally to women and some to men. So
Yes.
that's
Sonali,
a very
one aspect which I would want to share, and this is again, probably a part of the bias as well. And again, I'm not categorizing that it will happen every time. 75% of my direct reportees are women. So when I work with them, the perspectives that they come up with sometimes even challenge my assumption. So, for example, if I want to go soft and slow on, let's say, a woman employee, they would say, "Why? Why do you want to
hmm,
do that?" Right? And it shocks me saying, "Arey, aisa kyun?" And then they come back and say, unless we start bringing in that equity at workplace, there will always be the difference, and we will always tend to assume that women are weak, women need to be given support all the time, which is not the case. Most of the time they may be wanting to be challenged, but it's only that they don't speak up too often because opportunities are not there. So having that perspective, as you rightly said, having women voices in the team is crucial to not just success but also to challenge status quo, which unfortunately most of us stay comfortable in.
yes, very true. That's a very valid point you made. So moving on to our last question to of the uh, event or your podcast, I would like to ask you, like, these teenage boys nowadays, as their upbringing is changed, maybe because they don't want to hear a lot, they have a lot of online exposure, there is not much restriction, and parents are also worried that, okay, if we are going to say them too much, they take extreme steps. So, what are the points which you would highlight for these, especially male students or male teenagers, so that we create, a safer place for female?
Thanks, Sonali. And in fact, I think again that's one cliche that I've been hearing, and I was surprised by my son recently when my parents came down from Gujarat here for a day, and we didn't have a maid at that point of time. And when my mother was trying to wash utensils, my son quickly went up and said, "Aap mat dhona, main dhota hu. You don't wash it, I'll do it." this is something which we did not really think could happen. Why? Because we've been assuming that today uh, they still operate in that male dominated structure. But I was surprised, and some of the conversations that I've had with these youngsters, they have awareness about everything. Thankfully, except in a few homes where there is still that male domination that exists, they operate in a philosophy of everyone is equal, they are treated at par. I was very happy when I saw one of the basketball matches in my society where both girls and boys were a part of the team. No preference given. If it's a team of X, X by 2 is men, boys, sorry, and half of them are girls. That is something which we have to change.
Right.
Yes, we've been under that umbrella to say men has to be the bread earner for life. It needs to change. There are so many podcasts that I've seen and heard where child psychologists have started talking about saying that we need to groom children to be holistic human beings rather than being males or females.
Hmm.
And the education system also is now very open. So I would say it is for us to change, not the kids. We
Yes.
need to start accepting that yes, this is way of life. I am sorry, but I'm breaking this myth. I have been pampered by my mother. I've been pampered because anything I wanted, I would just scream out and say, "Mummy, bring me this. Mummy, bring me that." But today, it's not that. Today, it has to be if I need it, I need to go get it. Go back to the Western culture where if you have to get things done, you need to do it by your own. And unless and until we, as the senior generation, I don't want to put ourselves into any bracket, start changing our behaviors to make that a reality, I think our biases will impact the kids. And they are way ahead of us. They treat, and some of the lingo that they have caught up with, bro and all that, I'm looking at saying, okay, how can you call a girl bro? And then I got to know what does bro mean. That in our good old days we would say bhaiya mat bolna.
Ah, exactly.
So I think life has changed. The generation itself has changed. They have access to knowledge. They have access to more resources than we ever had, and they are well-rounded, well-thought, focused, and they focus on something which is very, very important, which is respect. And I think that's the foundation that we all should work for, making sure that there is respect for every individual, irrespective of the gender. That's my submission.
Wow. I think you mentioned it in a very very different way, I would say, and a very wonderful manner. Of course, respect, mutual respect has to be there. But what you mentioned, I think this something we all need to take into account is that rather than only giving them suggestions, it is we also who need to change, or we
Change.
also need to look into their world. What are they thinking? What are they deciding? Or what are they up to? So that will make a lot of change. Like as you mentioned, you didn't know, and your son went and
Did that? Yeah.
he probably in other or in some of the houses they do mention, they do raise the kid that way. But you said without you mentioning, if he is doing that, that means something is going on in back of his mind. He's been seeing,
True.
he's been studying, he's been watching, whatever.
Okay.
And it shows respect, it shows a lot of, it speaks volumes about a lot of things. So that's superb, that's really wonderful. And I once again thank you so much for being on the show. It was wonderful.
My pleasure.
And I think we had a lot of insights and beautiful conversation that went on. So I would request all the viewers who are watching this. I'm going to share all the links of social media links of Dr. Brilliant. Please, get in touch with him if you need any assistance, or if you're looking for leadership coaching or any other aspects, as I've already read his bio. So thank you so much, and see you around, Dr. Brilliant. Thank you.
So thank you so much for having me on Men's Talk Town. Amazing thought process, and I really loved the way in which Sonali navigated the entire process. I believe that as the journey evolves across, with new generations coming into the workforce, coming in with newer ideas, newer thought process, it is important for us as leaders and change makers to start looking at life differently. Women play a very crucial part in our journey, be it since birth. I think we need to build an ecosystem where equity is given focus on. We need to start focusing on creating an ecosystem where respect is the foundation of everything that builds the future for all of us. And thank you, Sonali, for creating something so wonderful. And I'm sure from all the experts that who have come in, each one of us take back one learning which can transform the way we look at. And there could be a future where we don't talk about men and women or any other genders. We just talk about human beings who are work in progress. Thank you for having me. Really loved being a part of this journey.